Hi everyone, Rory at Claude Painting Studio again. I've got a Napoleonic French light cavalry horse that we're going to paint today. This is to go with the Hussar painted in my last video. Just like that model, it's been primed black and then with some grey and Games Workshop Wraithbone from above. And that's to give us a lot of early highlighting and contrast. And when we come to use our glaze medium with paint later, it's just really going to help to add contrast in the light and dark areas. I probably am going to boost the contrast a little. We'll add some off-white into our Wraithbone to sort of highlight the areas where the light is coming down directly from above. And also use some Army Painter dark tone to darken some of the recessed areas some more. The horse is going to be a bay. A bay is a brown horse with a black tail, black mane, and black lower legs. So obviously these areas are lighter at the moment because they had the spray from above. So with some dark tone we'll bring that down before we think about applying a dark grey paint to build up the black. I'm going to come back once I've done the extra layering to further push those contrasts, and we'll have a look at that before we get the brown paint out for the horse flesh. Alright, we're back after adding some more shade and highlighting. It does look a bit ridiculous at the moment. But as we apply our brown over the top, we're of course going to blend these areas together, and we will lose the mottled appearance. The key area is really to think about highlighting on the horse flesh. We'll not go into equine terms, I don't know them very well, and I'm sure it'll just add to confusion. But essentially what I would call the top of the thigh and the hip, the back here. So we've certainly added some Wraithbone, but then some off-white from Vallejo at the very tip there as well. Wherever we've got edges of muscle next to creases and folds, an extra bit of paint there is just going to really accentuate the difference between the high spot and the low spot. A little bit on the neck and the back of the head as well. Eyebrows, tips of ears, and the end of the snout. We'll apply some brown. I have Army Painter Oak Brown mixed with a little bit of Vallejo Glaze Medium, and once this is dry we'll come back and have a look. So we've got our Oak Brown applied. I'm going to further shade areas where we've got the folds and recesses in amongst the musculature. So down the front of the hip here. We've got some Army Painter dark tone, thinned 1:1 with the Quickshade medium. And this is going to be placed in a few coats, because we're going to really want to increase the contrast between the raised areas and the darker areas, and at the same time we don't want to put it on too thick initially. If we put on a really thick layer, we're going to have quite a stark transition between the brown and the darkened areas. So by going for a thinner mixture with a couple of layers, the second layer will be with a smaller brush really into the depths of these recesses, and that's just going to lead to a smoother transition from light to dark. So we've really upped that contrast in the folds around the musculature with the addition of the dark tone. I've also used some of the dark tone on the lower halves of the legs. We want to get a little bit of a transition between the brown and the black, so around the knee joints added some dark tone over there. I've got some German grey from Vallejo thinned with a bit of the Glaze medium, and we really want to take off some of the quite light top colours on the mane and the tail with this. So not a whole lot of technical stuff to this. We're going to apply this, let it dry. I think after it's dried we'll go back over with some more dark tone and really help to shade the recesses. What we can do as well, if we find that it has gone a bit too dark along the top, is the Glaze medium has a drying retarder in it. So what I can do is either take a clean brush and wipe some off, or get a lighter grey and put that in as a highlight, and that will blend with this German grey. So I've added some Army Painter Uniform Grey into the mix with some of the German Grey from Vallejo. We've still got some Glaze medium in there. I'm just going to start picking out the individual hairs in the tail. It's really concentrating on the ones that are going to be catching the light towards the top, and then at the end as well. Same with the mane. I've used a bit of this mix on the lower legs as well to add some highlights. Again, I think I'll come back with some dark tone to further define the shadows on there. But we're getting the natural parts of the horses, the horse almost done. After that we'll move on to some of the horse furniture, another word for the tack and saddlecloth, all that stuff. Our leather on French horses is black. We will probably use a blue rather than a grey to lighten, so we do get a bit of difference between the hair and the leather. With the horseflesh now finished off, we'll move on to the leather. I have some Vallejo Game Colour Night Blue mixed with some Army Painter Matte Black, probably about 75-25, and then I've added a little bit of the Glaze medium to this. So there's a few straps coming off the saddle. Basically we're just going to paint over the entirety of these. The Glaze medium we've added is going to thin this, so we're getting some of the translucency, and that is going to help to pick up some of the lighter areas from our Wraithbone priming. We'll have that show through on the raised surfaces and the edges. Now time to shade our leather straps. Back once again with the Army Painter Dark Tone, again about a 1-to-1 mix with Quickshade mixing medium. I've got my size 1 brush, and what I'm hoping to do with this wash is to keep it away from the edges as much as possible. On areas where we've got all the buckles, etc., getting a good coat is fine. But the flat straps themselves, if we can keep to the middle, we're going to help with the highlight that's showing through from the base coats. We're darkening the centre and keeping the edges that little bit lighter. The wash will naturally try to run to the centre anyhow. If you've ever painted a white strap on a Napoleonic, you'll have noticed once it's dry, after the wash that is, it's really the centre that looks the darkest. And that's good, you know, our highlight is going to fall at the edge. I've got another wash here, some Army Painter Light Tone, again 1:1 with the Quickshade mixing medium. I'm going to apply this over the sheepskin that lies over the saddlecloth here. And earlier on, some of the off-white was placed on some of the more raised fibres, but the light tone is just going to find its way into the depths of the sculpted on texture. I'll make this come to life. So we come back to it after our washes have dried. I've taken a liberty to do a little bit of work ahead of time. But for the black leather, I've got some pure night blue from Vallejo Game Colour. And we'll just pick out a little bit of leather strap to re-highlight again. The edges I've already been in with some shadow grey, old Citadel paint, but coat d'arms do their own equivalent. And this really is just for the very tips of some of our leather work, and we don't need much. The sheepskin has had a couple of colours applied over the top of the light tone wash. Some Vallejo Game Colour Elfic Flesh, and then some off-white from Vallejo. And really the areas that we want to just bring up to be a little bit lighter are those where we've got the sort of bulbosity of the blanket underneath, and this area behind where the rider's leg sits. In the centre here, the rider's going to be obscuring that, so no need to paint this. We've got a wonderful texture sculpted on here. I'm just applying a bit of highlighting, first of all with the Elfic Flesh. And then with the off-white to the very ends. The other thing I've done with the off-white is to go around the points of the shark's teeth, or dog's teeth as I've seen it called, that run along the base of the blanket here. And we will be painting this red, and that will have a bit of highlight from where we've put the off-white at the end there. Now continuing round these shark's teeth with Army Painter Pure Red. Sort of teaching you to suck eggs at the moment. Quite straightforward application, obviously. Coming back for a second coat on those is not a bad idea. If we flip it around, we'll see the ones that have dried already. So where they were sort of pre-shaded and highlighted with the off-white towards the tip, we do just have a bit of brightness there. I could further intensify the contrast, perhaps with some Army Painter light tone or soft tone, just at the base of the triangle where it meets the sheepskin. Next bit of decoration is we have a couple of rolls on the back of the saddle to paint in with crystal blue from Army Painter to match the uniform of the Hussar, leaving the border white as much as possible. If we look at this from top down, there are a couple of straps, so leaving a bit of white. These are sculpted, but it's not the most defined. So an approximation, is absolutely fine. I'll finish this off and come back. Now the crystal blue has been added to the roll at the rear of the saddle. I am going to highlight that with some crystal blue with added Voidshield blue. So really just along the very top is A-OK. I've redefined the straps with some more of the off-white, and then writing a number 1 for the first Hussars in that circle is the next challenge. I've done that off camera where I can get a bit closer to the horse, but I will do the same on the other side. And the roll towards the front of the saddle, we've done that angel green from Army Painter. That will get a highlight in just a second, and then we'll start with some of the metallics. I added some Vallejo model colour Sick Green to the Army Painter Angel Green for the highlight on that roll. I've now got some Foundry Gunmetal, crescent moon shape to pick out there. The bit in the horse's mouth. We do have a couple of fine clasps on the leather, which are a wee bit tricky to pick out, and if we mess this up I will go back and correct with some black. And we need our brass colour, Vallejo brass in this instance, for a couple of pieces of decoration on our harnesses. So centre of the cross over the front of the horse's head, and also a chest piece there. I'll let these dry. Once it's dried I will highlight the gunmetal with some Mithril silver, old GW paint, other silvers are available that you can still buy, and some Vallejo gold for the brass. And we should be able to mount our Hussar and show the finished piece then. And here we have the finished horse with Hussar rider that we painted in the last video. Been put on a 50mm by 25mm wide base, which has been finished with some Geek Gaming Scenics Mediterranean soil. I really must invest in a motorised Lazy Susan, so I don't have to turn this around to show you all the different sides. So between this video and the previous one, hopefully there has been some useful information on painting Hussars and their horses. The two videos have sort of gone a bit more in depth than a basic get it on the tabletop job. I said in the last one a couple of ideas how to paint the Hussar. If you want to do a really quick horse, I would get some Army Painter Fur Brown Prime with that, and pick out the sheepskin in some off-white, shark's teeth in some red, blue for the roll, dark green for the cloth underneath the front of the sheepskin, and black for the horse furniture, the leather of the bridle and the reins, etc. Give the whole lot a dry brush with a light off-white, and then hit it with a dark wash, either dark tone or strong tone, GW, Agrax Earthshade or Nuln Oil, and that would be a simple way to turn out a horse quickly. So if you've liked this kind of in-depth video and its previous one, please let me know. If you think you'd prefer seeing just straightforward get it on the table, guides only, again, please leave a comment below. Should be back a bit sooner with the next video. That's already getting lined up for recording this week, and see you all soon. Bye bye.